What's up guys, Lou here for Golf Avenue. You know just how much we love used golf clubs around here. We love them so much, in fact, we're willing to test them against any golf clubs on the market. We've already covered TaylorMade's latest release, the QI10, against a model from 20 years ago, the R540XD, released in 2004. We've also looked at Callaway with the most recent release, the Paradigm AI Smoke Triple Diamond, and we've compared it to a model from 2004 as well, the ERC Fusion. This time around, we're looking at one of the most budget-friendly brands out there, and in our opinion, one of the most underrated ones, Cobra. We'll obviously be testing their latest release, the Dark Speed, but this time around, we won't be pinning it against a model from 20 years ago, just because we didn't have any in stock at the moment. Actually, this time around, we're going back about 16 years in time to a model that, trust us, you won't be disappointed about. Speaking of this mystery club, let's head back there in our blue bin and find the clubs for our test. Alright, so first up, we're looking at our 2024 release, the Dark Speed Max from Cobra. It's got a very big club head, which should help with confidence at address. It also has a very nice and dark profile with some red accents here and there. It also has a dual adjustable weighting system on the bottom of the club head. You see one near the hosel, one at the back of the club head. It also has a very aerodynamic profile, typical of modern driver, which really sets it apart from our older driver. Speaking of, let's go pick that one up. And for our older model, we went with the Cobra L4V from 2008. Somehow, this club head looks even more massive than the Dark Speed Max. And if you take a closer look, you'll see that there was their first foray into aerodynamics and carbon club head at Cobra. The other thing is, there's no adjustability with this club, very typical of drivers from this era. And the last thing we have to mention, when our friend Ryan Barrett came to visit us the other day, he did come across this driver and mention how loud it was back in the day. So I'm really excited to see how this one sounds. If you guys at home used to have one like this, let us know down in the comments just how loud it was for you guys back in the days. Alright guys, we're back behind the desk to take a closer look at the differences between our driver. So right away, we're not looking at a difference, but instead, we're looking at something they have in common, and we're talking about the size of the club head. Both club heads stand at 460 cc's of volume. This means that they're the largest volume possible allowed by the RA and the USGA. And while they have the same size of club head, they couldn't be more different. First up, if you look at the L4V, it's got very sharp edges, more square look. That is very typical of that era. On the other hand, you've got the Dark Speed here that is almost shaped like a bullet in the sense that it's very rounded, has much more smoother edges, all in an attempt to make the club as aerodynamic as possible. Speaking of aerodynamics, if you take a closer look at the L4V, especially at the top of its club head, you'll see two massive dimples, which are very uncommon for drivers, but these dimples are designed to help with aerodynamics when it comes to swinging the golf clubs off the tee. Of course, when it comes to technology, one club has a massive edge, and it's obviously the Dark Speed, which relies on the hot face technology from Cobra, the power shell, the power bridge, and even has adjustable weights under the club head that allow you to customize the club to even better suit your needs when you're teeing off with this beauty. Basically, the L4V is basic as they come when it comes to technology, but we're not here to compare tech, are we? Alright guys, so we just got done testing our Cobra Dark Speed Max driver. A few comments right away. The club head is massive even when you're standing at address. It is a big black bullet standing behind your golf ball, ready to smash that ball away. Speaking of smashing the ball away, I was able to generate very impressive ball speeds with the Dark Speed Max. Honestly, it was more than I thought I was going to get, but I really want to take the time to sit behind the desk, take a look at both drivers' performance, and let you guys know which one came out on top at the end of our test, obviously. Last thing with the Dark Speed Max, dispersion. It was really tight. You'll see I do have some outliers on the right and a few more on the left, but the main point of concentration or the focus for all the drives was about 10 yards wide, which is very impressive and very good considering we're talking about a brand new driver that is way more expensive. So if you're spending more money, you are expecting a more accurate driver, and with the case of the Dark Speed Max, seems like you will end up with a more accurate driver. But the only way to see if it's really more accurate is to test our L4V and let you know what it looks like at impact. So we just got done testing our L4V driver from Cobra. A few things right away. Well, we'll say that Ryan was right, Ryan Barrett, of course. That driver explodes at impact. It sounds like you're hitting 10,000 tin cans at the same time. It was incredible. Honestly, I was disturbing people in the office with this driver. The other thing is, It's surprisingly accurate for an older driver. It's definitely not as accurate as the Dark Speed Max, don't get me wrong, but it was pretty accurate for a driver this old, although I will say forgiveness was definitely not the same. If I was hitting off-center strikes or anything that was too far from the sweet spot, I would know right away, not only in terms of distance, but also in terms of where the ball would end up. It would definitely go offline, either far to the right or a massive hook to the left. And the one last thing I'll say about the L4V is that it is pretty big also behind the golf ball. Maybe not as big as the Dark Speed Max, but big enough to help you with confidence and also to let you know that you're about to hit a massive bomb with this driver. So that just about wraps it up for our test of our drivers. We're gonna head back to the FC. We'll sit back down behind our desk and finally answer a question: which of these drivers came out on top? And also the one we posed at the start of this video: is the brand new driver worth all that money? Alright guys, we're back behind the desk to take a closer look at the performance from both our drivers. So let's first start by comparing the distance data from both our clubs. So when we're looking at the performance of both clubs side by side, the first thing we'll notice is a very small discrepancy in distance, both in total distance and carry distance when it comes to our clubs. When it comes to the carry distance, there's barely 2 yards of difference between our two clubs, and when it comes to the carry, there's barely 5 yards of difference in total distance. Obviously, 5 yards difference is not that much of a difference. It's notable nonetheless, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely not that big of a difference that it could justify the price difference between those two clubs. But as we usually do, let's take a look at the rest of our data to have a better idea on how each club performed. So let's first look at the club speed from each of our driver. If we look at that category, we'll obviously see that the Dark Speed has the edge there, but only a slight one. And the simple reason behind that was that I felt more comfortable with the Dark Speed in my swing. I felt like I was able to get more speed out of my swing with the Dark Speed in hand when I was in the sim testing out those drivers. The extra club speed that the Dark Speed got also turned into extra ball speed on the screen, another department where the Dark Speed got the better of the L4V. To be fair to the L4V, I would have been able to produce the same ball speed as I did with the Dark Speed had I been able to get more out of my swing with this driver. And with such a small difference when it comes to total distance and carry distance, and this small little discrepancy between the club speed and ball speed from one club to the next can definitely explain the very tiny difference in total and carry distance that we saw between those two. But there's definitely more key data points to look at when it comes to the performance of our two drivers, so let's take a closer look at spin rates and launch angles. In both cases here, we have to give the crown to the L4V. It was the higher spinning of the two clubs, and it also launched higher, but it also means that it was bound to be shorter than the Dark Speed. With the higher launch angle and the higher spin rates, the ball was never going to carry as far as it did with the Dark Speed. And then on top of that, you add the fact that the L4V did not get the same swing speed or the same club speed as the Dark Speed. It was bound to be shorter in any case. And don't get me wrong here, a 14-degree launch angle and just over 2,500 RPMs of spin rate is not critical at all. It's actually very good for someone who's looking for a forgiving driver specifically. But in the case that we were trying to do here, get as much distance out of our swing and try to produce the highest ball speed as possible, the L4V does come up short. So rounding up things here, I think there's a few details that we can take away from this test that will be interesting to consider. First off, obviously, the Dark Speed has the edge from this test, but only by the slimmest of margins over a driver that was released 16 years ago and is the third of the price of the new one. And that brings us to our second point. You do have to take into account how much money you'll be spending on your driver. As we said, the L4V is less than a third of the price of the brand new Dark Speed. Yes, the Dark Speed is nice. Yes, the technology will last you for a while, but as we've seen over the last few years, the innovation when it comes to driver seems to be going at breakneck speed, and it's really hard to believe that your driver won't be out of style or out of class maybe 4 or 5 years from now. But as we said with the L4V, if you're only looking for a reliable driver that will be useful whenever you step out on the course, even if it's only 1 or 2 times a year, it will serve the job perfectly for a very, very low price. Third though, we have to mention the fact that yes, the extra cost of the Dark Speed is quite considerable, but on the other hand, one of the main things I noticed while I was testing the Dark Speed and one of my main observations from the simulator was just how forgiving and consistent the Dark Speed was. I felt like I was able to hit the ball in the same spot time and time again, as long as I wasn't trying to force anything off the tee, if I wasn't trying to push it further or trying to draw it inside. As long as I was just trying to hit a good ball that was going to find the fairway, I was almost always able to put it in the same 10-yard wide circle. Our fourth point is a little less serious, but it still needs to be addressed. Older drivers definitely don't lose out much when it comes to distance over time, but when it comes to acoustics, they don't lose out on anything at all. Ryan promised us some explosions off the tee with the L4V, and it definitely delivered. And finally, for our last point, we've mentioned this a few times already, and we mention it almost every time we do a comparison, but all that technology and innovation doesn't necessarily translate to massive gains when you're out on the court. If you're still comfortable with your current driver and you don't feel like it's time for a change, don't feel pressured to do it. Honestly, those new drivers are very nice. They're definitely more forgiving. I'll never disagree with that. But what I'll say is that the distance gains that you're probably looking for might not be there for you with those brand new drivers. And don't forget that if you're looking to trade or sell your current driver with Golf Avenue, we'll always be happy to help you out with your search of your new club. So before we let you go, we just want to let you guys know that if you enjoyed today's content, if you want to learn more about the comparison test that we did, you can find all the details on our blog at thegolfavenue.com. We simply want to remind you to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed the content, and obviously go ahead and subscribe if you're interested in seeing more golf content. We're going to do more comparisons for you. We're going to do more list reviews. We're also going to start building some bags for you. So if you're interested in getting some bags built for a certain budget, for a certain type of players, be sure to let us know down in the comments, and we'll be happy to check those out and keep those in mind when it comes to maybe your next video. Who knows, your idea could be the next featured video on the Golf Avenue channel. So let us know down in the comments what you'd like to see next. I'll be sure to check those out. And in the meantime, for Golf Avenue, I've been Lou. See ya.